I am by no means an expert, world-renowned landscape photographer, but I have my own style, most people do, and you develop your style by following a set of rules, guidelines, whatever you want to call them, and that's what gives me my way of shooting. So I'm going to tell you about some things that I do and some tips that will help you improve your landscape photos. Go low, and what I mean by this is your angle. Sometimes you just shoot up at eye level when you're shooting landscape photos, but you can look at a different angle. Being able to see the ground and the background or the actual landscape shot itself just gives you more depth, shows how things can be bigger, shows how things can be smaller. It's just an alternate angle to your landscape photo. Use a zoom lens. This is the 70-200 f4, something I like to use when it comes to shooting landscape photos. Often you might want to use something like a 16-35. I love my wide shots, but sometimes it can be nice to zoom in. You might get a different angle, you might be able to focus on something a little bit different, something in the distance that you might not be able to see, just an alternate angle. Use foreground blur or foreground subjects to make your background look bigger. Similar to the first tip, but you maybe have, let's say, a tree in your foreground and it's out of focus and your focus is on the background, or you have a person and the background is behind the person and the person looks really small. By just adding that little bit in front of your landscape or your background, it just gives you a lot more depth and shows you the true size of what it is that you're taking a photo of. I remember when I went to the Grand Canyon and I just stood on the edge and I took a nice big wide shot thinking it would look great. When I look back at the photos afterwards, yeah, they're nice, but you don't comprehend the size, the scale of it, because it's just a wide shot. You almost need something in the foreground to be able to show you how big, how vast that shot is. I love to shoot wide landscapes on my drone. Just up higher, it gives you a different perspective. But if you're using a drone, don't forget to sometimes look down. You can easily assign something on the controller to just quickly face the camera down. It's a perspective that you often don't see, and it can be very interesting. You never know what is directly below you. You could think what's in front of you looks great, but then when you look down, might be something that's even better. Use a high shutter speed. The reason for this is if you have an animal that's in the background, a bird flying, or even wind that's blowing the trees slightly, by using a high shutter speed, you're going to get a lot less motion blur. The shutter is open for less time, and because of this, you're going to result in a sharper image, crispier image with less motion blur, which is what you want anyway. And to go with this, my next tip will cover something else that you can do. Use a tripod. Even if it's the cheapest one that Best Buy has, that Amazon has, you can get a tripod for $10, $15. A cheap tripod will always be better than no tripod at all. A tripod is going to be another way for you to get less motion blur, less camera shake, because you're going to shake a little bit no matter what you do. You can lock off the tripod, lock all your axis off on the tripod, and get a crisp, clean image. You can get multiple images as well of the same thing, the exact same shot, because you know you're on a tripod, you know it's locked off, you know it's the same view. Use a self-timer, even if it's 2 seconds. If you're taking a shot, even by pushing that button there, you might get a little movement in the camera, a little twitch, and that's just going to create a little bit of blur in your image, and you don't want that. 2 seconds is one I often use. You can click the shutter, let go, you get what I'm trying to say, let go of the camera, and then by the time the shutter actually clicks 2 seconds later, you're going to get a crisp image with no camera movement. So play around with using self-timer on your camera. I'm pretty sure all cameras, even phones, have a self-timer built in. You might have a really wide lens, something like the Sony 24G Master, which I'm shooting on right now, and that has a beautiful f1.4 aperture, super wide, crazy bokeh, looks really nice, but there's a time and a place for using that. And when it comes to landscapes, typically you're not going to want to shoot wide open. Use an aperture that's higher, something like an f16. It's going to give you a wider depth of field. As a real quick example, we can actually use a field. Think of a field. The beginning of the field and the end of the field. If you use a shallow depth of field, you're just going to get maybe the beginning of the field in focus. If you use a wider depth of field, you're going to get the start of the field and the end of the field in focus. So by using a wider depth of field, you get more in focus, and for a big wide landscape shot with a lot going on, that's what you want. I think I said field a lot in that sentence, but it was a good example. I hope. You tell me. My last tip is get your photos printed. And the reason for this is so often now that we go out and we shoot hundreds of photos, we spend hours planning a shoot, on a shoot, we come home, we spend hours editing those photos, we upload them to Instagram, and that's it, we forget about them. Get a nice large print made, put that on your wall and enjoy your photo. Look at the photo, remember when you were there, remember how it felt to capture that photo, where you were, and it's just a really good way to enjoy your photos. So on that subject, Posterjack are a Canadian company, and they reached out to me recently to see if I wanted to get some of my photos made into prints. And of course I did. I had a couple of drone shots in mind. We went back and forth. They seemed like really nice people, and they made a couple of my photos in large format prints. Everything's custom made in-house in Etobicoke, just west of Toronto. They do large format prints, they do smaller prints. You can get things made on canvas, metal, whatever you want, they do it. And they've actually given all you guys a discount code, which I'll put just here if you want to use it. I'll also link it down below. You'll get 20% off. So if you want to use that and get some prints made yourself, go ahead. But let me show you what it is that I got printed. I'm really happy with these. This is one of my favorite drone shots I've ever taken. I can't really get it in the screen here. It's so big. So this is a trail that I was on actually a while back, and I did a little vlog on it. I didn't take this then, I took this I think last year, obviously in the snow. I love this shot. This is one of my favorite drone shots. The symmetry, the colors. Now I love summer, I absolutely love summer, and I don't miss winter in any way, but you just can't get the whites of the snow and the color, the crystal clear color of the water there. You just can't get that contrast in summer. So this is one of my favorite drone photos ever, and this is made on a metal frame, and it's solid, and I really love that. The other photo is from when I was in Italy a couple of years ago. Another drone shot. I was in Lake Garda, which is a beautiful place if you ever want to go somewhere really nice. It was at a wedding in Italy, and I took this shot on top of a mountain. It's super wide. Don't even know if I'm going to be able to show it to you properly here. The reflection of the light is not helping, but yeah. So really stoked with that one as well. The quality of these prints it's really good, really nice. They're very reasonably priced. They focus on making good, high quality stuff, but keeping the prices down so people can actually afford the prints and enjoy them and put them on the wall. So yeah, so there we go. That is my tips and some things that I do when it comes to shooting landscape photos. If you have any tips for landscape photos, feel free to comment them down below. There might be some things that people aren't aware of. There might be some things that I want to try out. So go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching today. Hopefully you picked up at least one thing, you learned one thing, taken away one thing that I do that you might want to start doing. If you did, then great. That's the whole purpose of why I make these videos anyway. Thanks for watching. I think I already said that, whatever. You know what to do down below, all those buttons and things, subscribes and notifications and stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one. Also, if you're worried about your prints getting damaged in transit, that fell out the bottom. Let me be the first to tell you that they package their stuff incredibly well. Let me show you this. That print came in this huge box, and it was loaded with bubble wrap and extremely well protected. There's no way that that would have got damaged. So you know that they've got your back, you know that they care about your prints. Good job, Poster Jack. Thanks for the prints. But if you're using a drone, what is a drone? A drone.